Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, with a review of The Batman. Directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson as, well, the Batman.
I got you!
This is the, third reboot of the Batman film franchise. We had the Burton-Schumacher era, the Nolan era, the Snyder era, and now the Reeves era. I've been looking forward to this new reboot just because of one key thing that Matt Reeves said early on that he'd do with his Batman. Make him a detective. Now, you know, the Batman films always had a bit of detective work involved, but it was usually downplayed compared to the comics, in favor of focusing on the action. It never felt like a Batman film's whole story was a big mystery, until now.
Oh, you're really not as smart as I thought you were.
This new Batman film is nearly 3 hours of Batman early on in his career, going around investigating crime scenes, interrogating people, solving shit, you know, like in an actual Batman story, and it's a pretty great change of pace, literally, because the film has a slow, deliberate pace, which is to the film's benefit, because it gives plenty of time to enrich the relationships Batman has with Lieutenant Gordon, Selina Kyle, and Alfred along the way as he tries to solve his latest case.
You got a lot of cats.
Never think about strays.
Fittingly, the villain in this film is the Riddler, played by Paul Dano, who is targeting Gotham's corrupt elite. And he's pretty terrifying in the role, but it does feel like this movie wears its David Fincher influences on its sleeve.
Police! Hands up!
The Riddler in this film is explicitly the Zodiac Killer, but green, down to leaving the same types of ciphers, and how the Riddler carries out his plans is reminiscent of Kevin Spacey's John Doe from Seven. Thankfully not reminiscent of Kevin Spacey himself.
I've been trying to reach you.
Hell, the movie looks a lot like Seven, shares some similar plot points, and the Gordon/Batman relationship is even pretty reminiscent of Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt in Seven. You know, if Brad Pitt was wearing a bat costume. It goes just short of having Batman screaming,
"What's in the fucking box?"
Give me the gun.
Now, none of this is bad, of course. Everything is influenced by something. I just wish the movie didn't make its influences so obvious. You know, just dress them up a bit more so I'm not thinking about other movies while I'm watching this movie. And in some places, it does feel a bit like copied homework with very few changes.
Let's clear this place out now!
Regardless, the Batman comic book influences are very welcome though, especially the Frank Miller influences, down to Pattinson's brooding narrations. I was a little iffy about monologues in a live-action Batman movie, but I realize that this film is drawing heavily from Batman Year One, and to do a Frank Miller tribute, you gotta have monologues to do it justice, because that's where the magic of Frank Miller's writing was. He gave you a glimpse into Batman's mind. The Batman nails the Frank Miller style. Gotham is a rundown, seedy world with corruption everywhere, and we're just seeing the beginning of it becoming a place dominated by supervillains like the Penguin, instead of traditional mobsters like Falcone. It's early days. Robert Pattinson is great in the role of a young, angsty Batman still trying to figure things out, and that's down to his costume and gadgets. It's all very pieced together. The suit looks cool, but the cowl kinda looks crappy. His Batmobile is just a souped-up Pursuit Special muscle car. All this will obviously change, so it will be nice to see Batman and his world evolve on screen, hopefully over the course of many movies and not just 3 films this time.
But when it's denied, it's your violence you may find.
We're starting from square one here, with a lot of the characters not yet in their prime, and it allows the actors to make these roles their own. Catwoman isn't Catwoman yet, she's a waitress and a cat burglar. Gordon isn't the commissioner yet, he's still a lieutenant. Penguin, well, he's pretty much the Penguin, and I do gotta hand it to Colin Farrell for playing the Penguin without any makeup.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
There isn't really a weak link in the cast, everybody's good in the film, but I do think that Andy Serkis is a poor fit for Alfred. He does the best he can with the material, but his Alfred is just too gruff. I feel like Alfred's character has never been quite figured out yet in live action. He's ultimately best as a fussy English butler with sarcastic comments about his employer and surrogate son dressing up as a bat and beating the shit out of people.
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I doubt at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
sir.
I do appreciate seeing all the prototype tech in the film, but it's a little inconsistent. For instance, in order to glide in this film, Batman has to fashion his cape into a goofy flying squirrel suit that releases a parachute to land. A very clunky and goofy but believable process. At the same time, though, Batman also has contact lenses with a high-tech heads-up display that can record video and audio, streaming it directly to the Bat computer. This shit is as sci-fi futuristic as you can get, so I don't see why he can't just glide around normally.
Don't throw your life away.
Don't worry, honey. I got 9 of them.
The film is dark and grounded, but simultaneously surprisingly campy and comic booky. It's like a hard PG-13 version of the 60s Batman TV series, down to the aesthetic, which for the most part works, but I can't help but feel like Batman's relationship with the Gotham PD is goofy and nonsensical, especially this early on in his career. Most of the cops besides Gordon hate Batman, but they'll still let him enter crime scenes and investigate with them. Gordon is totally openly working with Batman, even though he turns on the bat signal from on top of an abandoned construction site. A lot of the modern comics, hell, even the animated series, depict Batman and Gordon having to keep their work together a secret because, realistically, Gordon would be fired or incarcerated working with a bat-themed vigilante.
And what about that floodlight on the top of MCU?
If you've got problems with malfunctioning equipment, I suggest you take them up with maintenance counselor.
Batman's relationship with the police is really inconsistent too, because at one point Gordon and Batman need to stage their falling out so Batman can escape the police department, but later Batman's still hanging out openly in crime scenes without it being addressed.
He's involved in this?
No, he's not involved.
How do you know? He's a vigilante.
It's all pretty stupid, but the flaws in the writing and the crib plot points from other films are ultimately pretty well masked by a movie with a lot of style, great visuals, compelling performances, a creepy atmosphere, awesome action sequences, and a pretty phenomenal score by Michael Giacchino that's like a horror version of an Ennio Morricone Western score.
I'm just here to unmask the truth about this cesspool we call a city.
I do have another big gripe, in this case with the film's final act. Not to get too spoilery, but I feel like the ending is rushed, which is insane when a movie is nearly 3 hours long, and the finale ultimately resorts to the same old terrorist doomsday device or city bombing bullshit the Nolan films did to death.
And here we go.
I was hoping the finale would be more cerebral like the rest of the film, where Batman would need to use his mind more, where Riddler would come up with some kind of deadly puzzle Batman would need to solve, but no, not at all. Admittedly, the stuff this movie does that the Nolan films did better and more effortlessly. The new film makes a point to illustrate the bat signal's effectiveness at scaring criminals, spending 5 minutes visually and verbally explaining it, but meanwhile, The Dark Knight got the point across in like 30 seconds pretty efficiently.
I don't like it tonight. What are you, superstitious? You got more chance of winning the Powerball than running into him.
Also, even though Nolan resorted to doomsday device spectacles repeatedly, it was always handled with gripping suspense, but the Batman doesn't quite reach the same level Nolan was at.
Anyone attempts to get off their boat, you all die.
Still, there's so much that the Batman does that the Nolan films never really did or paid much attention to. So this new film has carved itself a niche, and more than makes a case for itself being a damn fine Batman movie in its own right. It might even be my favorite Batman film, even though I have a lot of gripes with it, just because it does so many things right that weren't really done before in the live-action Batman films. I'm definitely looking forward to what's next with the Batman franchise, because I've got a feeling it'll probably be even better, and work out some of the kinks with this first film.
I'm vengeance.
I give the Batman a Zodiac out of 7. I'm still working on a bunch of new videos that I will eventually start uploading this month. Sorry for the delays, but it'll all be worth it. Thank you for your patience. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged my shout-out tier on Patreon for all their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.